After the most bizarre, most contentious, even angry presidential campaign in American history, come Tuesday, the polls and the pundits won't matter anymore. And finally, we'll hear from the American people. It seems like everyone has something to say about this election. Everybody's got an opinion, but not everybody's going to the polls. In fact, half of the people who are registered to vote won't. Take a look at the last 4 presidential elections. Voter turnout has ranged from 50 to 57%. And in a year where most Americans say they are not satisfied with either of the top 2 presidential nominees, there's little reason to believe we're going to do much better as an electorate this year. It is, in a word, embarrassing. The basis of our democracy, as Abraham Lincoln so brilliantly put it, is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. But when the people don't participate in the process, we lose that ingredient of our democracy that makes us special. It would seem our republic has grown complacent. The oppressed around the world still fight and die for the same freedoms American revolutionaries fought and died for. Freedoms we now take for granted. And when they achieve democracy, they embrace it as a sacred personal responsibility. For instance, after Iraq was freed from the oppression of Saddam Hussein and they had their first election with democracy born anew, voters were warned not to show up to the polls or they would be killed. There were 9 attacks on the polling places on December 15th, 2005. 44 Iraqi voters were killed. And still, in a brilliant defiance of terror, 78% of Iraqis celebrated their newfound freedom by showing the ink on their thumb that proved they voted as a courageous symbol of change. Yes, that's right, even in Iraq they have voter ID. But it's not just Iraq. We have one of the lowest voter turnouts in the world. Iceland recently held their elections. They got almost 80%. Mexico, on average, gets 63%. South Korea, over 80%. Most countries enthusiastically base their elections on the American model. We somehow lost that enthusiasm and that sense of responsibility. Look, you don't need me to remind you how important this election is. Even if you don't like these 2, fine, don't vote for them, but every House seat is up, and the balance of power in the Senate is to be decided. Local elections and local referendums are also to be decided by you. These are decisions that are going to shape our future. It is not just our most basic right, the foundation of our freedoms as outlined in the U.S. Constitution. It is our duty to participate. You hear so much about voter suppression these days. The truth is, the only person who can suppress your vote is you. The polls open early on Tuesday. Others have had to fight and die for freedom. You're only asked to show up. I'm Larry Menti. We'll see you again next week.